Mfikeyi Makayi. I am a Zambian and I live in Zambia. I live in a town called Kitwe, where I work in the mining sector. I did live in the US for 8 years. I lived in Hampton Roads, specifically in Norfolk, because I went to Old Dominion University for my undergrad and postgrad. I wanted to study history. And my mother said, no one's going to pay you to study things that happened long ago. So you need to do something technical, medicine, or I'm not investing in you to go to America. And I was just like, I'm going to get out of here. So I was very good in the sciences. So I picked chemical engineering because I loved chemistry. I was excellent at it. And in picking chemical engineering, they did, the college, Old Dominion, didn't have the program. So if you see chemical CH, the next program under it was CI, which was civil engineering. So I just moved and said, okay, I'm going to do civil engineering. I work in the mining industry. I'm the executive head for our region. I supply heavy mining equipment to the copper mines and the emerald mines in Zambia. I'm the first local woman in the position and also the first Zambian, probably the youngest as an executive head. We turn over $60 million a year, selling mining and construction equipment into the mining sector, construction, and also we've got energy products. So we sell an American product. It's actually Caterpillar. Everyone knows the Caterpillar stocks. So that's what I do in Zambia. I grew up in the capital, Lusaka, and I was raised by a single mom and in what I'd say a middle-class home. And I'm very lucky that Zambia is a peaceful nation. We have not seen any form of strife or conflict since independence. So I went to British and Canadian-run private schools, primary and secondary, which would be equivalent to American middle and high schools. And being the only girl, I think my mother really overinvested in me to get my education. I was a teenager, for lack of a better term. So I just left. I was happy to get away from my parents. And I didn't carry traditions per se, but my mother packed national dresses for me, you know? And I think it was a way of saying, this is who you are. And I didn't think I had a need for them. But when I got to campus and there were all these student associations and people ask you questions, where are you from? What do you wear? I was able to pull out those outfits. And like I said, that's when my identity formed. But we explored the United Kingdom, which is England. We explored Australia and South Africa and the US. And I think the US felt more, my family felt I'd have a wholesome experience. It would have been quite narrow and maybe dated. I mean, I'm shooting from the hip here. But I think the American experience it's a bit of everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. In terms of what happens culturally, politically there. And even though I've been back in Zambia now a decade, there are things that still rile me up when I see happenings in the US. I mean, it's quite obvious what has happened recently, but you know, Black Lives Matter, those things cemented my identity. And I always say, I found myself in America. I really didn't find my identity in Africa. I was born here, but everything was normal. But who I was really shaped by living in the US. I do remember my uncles and my aunts sitting me down and warning me about gang violence and crowds. You know, there was a lot of perceptions that came from maybe, I would say, Hollywood or from the news and who to associate with and be careful. So I think I came so alert and I was flying alone, and from connecting from Zambia to the US to Norfolk, I had to, you know, fly to LaGuardia, change airports and fly to Norfolk. I mean, you get to New York City and you are blown away. I come from a very small city with one terminal and I'm like 17. So all of that was just like, this place is huge. Everything is just big. People are big, you know, physically, they seem larger. I think I got more than I bargained for. I had amazing moments. I had dark moments because obviously you're shaping yourself. And I wouldn't trade that. I think my expectations became secondary. They were no longer important at that point. It is painted as the land of the American dream. So many migrants want to move there, but then you learn that the dream doesn't apply equally to everyone. And I think that's what brought me back as well. The dream wasn't equal. One has to be wary of taken advantage of. I think I was fleeced of a taxi fare in New York. I really believe that. So there's that innocence and people can see that. And it can be taken advantage of. It's taking your time to learn your surroundings before you travel, study the place, the history of the place, culturally without bias as much as possible. Familiarize yourself with what neighborhood you plan to live in. There are always associations that enable new migrants to settle in. So local food, I didn't appreciate it as much because you have it all the time. And then when it's taken away from you and your dietary needs just become different, I think the food affected me quite a bit. Yeah. There were a lot of people, I can't name everyone, but I had families that looked out for me through different holiday seasons when I couldn't travel. My roommate's family, the African-American family, took care of me. And even when I was graduating, they hosted my mom to stay with them. Fellow Africans, I still maintain a lot of close friends, American friends, to this day. So I can't really name them, but yes, I really give them credit because they helped me ease in. But the family, I would say the Flemings in Norfolk, Virginia. Zambia has one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And it's known worldwide as Victoria Falls because history says it was discovered by David Livingstone, a Scottish missionary. But the place had a name and there were local people who took him there. And the name is Mosiotunya Falls, which means the smoke that thunders. It smokes up in the peak of the rain season and it's misty. It's absolutely beautiful. I said I work in the mining industry. We are one of the largest copper mining producers in Africa and in the world, quite significant. And this copper is used in the electric vehicles that are changing the landscape in the US. So when people think of Tesla, I'm not trying to name, but electric vehicles require a lot of copper. So the copper price is going up and, you know, a lot of raw materials come out of Africa. And I think there's always a battle about if there's real equity in taking care of the resources on the continent that go and develop the first world. So when you drive your EV, remember there's a raw material that comes from a place like Zambia, and the other big country is the Congo. So I would say Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, he's our country's first president. We got independent in 1964. But over and above that, the reason the world should know about him is him and his party at the time housed a lot of African exiles during the struggle for apartheid. Zambia got bombed quite a bit by the apartheid South African government. He housed a lot of the exiles from West Africa. A lot of teachers came to Zambia from Ghana and Nigeria, which were already independent. And when he traveled to the States in the 60s, he met with civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and that shaped his view of how Zambia should be united and peaceful. And I believe Zambia has not experienced a war, I think because of that exposure that he had and that camaraderie to allow a lot of people to migrate into Zambia running from different war zones.